Engineer is considered as one of the strongest towers in Tower Defense Simulator, but recently, with its new balance update, many people don't like it. But let's actually look at it from a statistical standpoint. Is Engineer worse or better? Because most of the thing right now is just mob mentality about why nerf Engineer 4,500 gens, just one day of grinding just for it to get nerfed. But let's see, is Engineer actually worse or better? Great way to compare if Engineer is actually worse is comparing their DPS stats to its old one. So on the left is the old stats, the right is the new stats. Yeah, judging by those statistics, Engineer actually got better. Its nail gun does more DPS and it's cheaper. So what's happening here? And if you're wondering what the Sentry DPS is, and I'm not joking with you, it is literally 1-to-1 the exact same thing, the same DPS, same everything, same explosive damage, everything. Nothing has changed. So what are people mad about? Well, let's talk about it. The amount of sentries the Engineer can place now has changed substantially. At level 1, it can only place 1 sentry, and for later levels, you need to invest around $6,000 for even a second sentry. You're probably wondering, does this make the earlier levels for the Engineer absolutely useless? Well, no, because if we go back to that chart of the old and new one, you are paying a little more at the early levels, but the Engineer nail gun, its own nail gun, actually does some great damage, easily taking out 2 bosses and easily taking out the shadows or hiddens. It doesn't matter what game mode you're playing, but the Engineer can now successfully take Wave 13 down with little to no support. In fact, they can solo it if you're playing Molten mode. Going back to the Engineer Sentry thing, at its max level, you are playing a little less, but you are limited to only 3 sentries, which is taking around 100 DPS away from the Engineer. So, going back to the question, is Engineer now worse than Accelerator, or is Engineer now bad? Well, no, Engineer back then was stupidly overpowered, and it kind of needed a nerf, because you could solo hardcore with it, you could get pretty far in polluted wastelands with it. It just made the game a little too easy. I know, yeah, you grinded probably like 24 hours, or you paid $50 for the tower, but yeah, it Engineered a little too OP for what it is. It needed to be nerfed, and it's not really a bad nerf at that. They could have easily nerfed Engineer to the ground by taking away like 50 DPS or something like that. But instead, they balance it out with its nail gun to its sentry, and overall, it's a good tower. It's still very strong, don't get me wrong. It literally just lost 1 sentry, which is 100 DPS loss. As you can see by the background footage, the Molten King, okay buddy, the Molten Boss gets owned by the Engineer. So yeah, Engineer is still an okay tower. It's not even okay, it's one of the best towers. It still will be the best towers. And yeah, grinding for Engineer is still a viable option, and you're still getting a pretty OP tower for it.